Welcome to the Accidental Business Owner podcast, the show that lifts the lid on what it really takes to grow, scale, and successfully exit your business without losing your sanity, soul, or savings. Real stories, raw lessons, proven strategies. Let's dive into this week's episode. Welcome to the Accidental Business Owner podcast. I'm Jay Allen, Managing Director of My True North, where we help conscientious business leaders turn chaotic growth into scalable, sellable assets, not just better paid jobs. Today's guest embodies the raw founder journey most never talk about. He dropped out of Devry to become a CTO at just 22 years old, with little to no business experience, but bootstrapped a car dealer CRM from a side project sticker tool to a $30 million in annual revenue business, and then sold it to AutoTrader for $150 million. Now, not only has he done that, but he repeated the magic with developer tools for Stackify and exited again, and now runs a 300-strong development engineering firm. He's also hosted well over 1,200 episodes of the Startup Hustle podcast. And I'm delighted to be able to say that from flea market starts to a proper 9-figure exit, I'm thrilled to be able to share today that we're talking with Matt Watson. Mattson, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. And ultimately, I'm still just a guy looking for problems to solve.
Matt, I'm grateful for your time today. Before we get into what you've done as a business, perhaps you can just give us a brief flavour with regards to who was Matt before he entered the business fray. Where's he come from? What was his upbringing? Where did you get this entrepreneurial spark from?
I mean, honestly, I've always just been a guy that is always up for a challenge and a problem. When I was younger, I didn't realize I had ADHD, but I absolutely do. And one of my superpowers from that is I can really hyper focus on a problem. And like right now I'm doing home remodeling. So it like all consumes me, and I'm like working on all this home remodeling stuff. And like, I'm just like a dog on a bone. Give me a problem and I will stay on it until I figure it out. And I think that's one of the superpowers of ADHD. And I think why a lot of entrepreneurs have ADHD. But yeah, I've always just been, drawn to the problems, like solving problems, like helping other people.
Do you know, there's one thing that I've got goosebumps the moment that you use the word, is because, there are so many labels and badges out there that people now start to become associated and stuck to. And yet I've constantly said that what's your superpower, as opposed to let's do away with this word disability and understand that we are all unique, and the skills that we lean into are the ones that we perfect and master.
Yeah, I mean, ADHD is a good example of that, where, I have kids that have ADHD and other family members that have it and whatever. And it's a spectrum of things. But for some of us, it really helps us focus and get things done. And the other thing that's weird about it is most people that have ADHD have a different relationship to consequences. And like, I see this in my 16-year-old, like if I tell him, when he was younger, like try to discipline him or any of this none of it worked. Like he doesn't care about consequences. They don't matter. And as an adult, as an entrepreneur, I have the same thing. Like I don't think as much about the consequences. Like I'm not going to talk myself out of why I should do something. I just assume I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to be successful. And if it doesn't work, it just doesn't work. Like I don't scare myself out of it, where a lot of people will talk themselves out of everything. Like they just sit around and think about, well, I'm going to fail. This isn't going to work. Like I just don't think that way. Like that does not happen in my head.
Do you know, I didn't realize where this conversation was going to go today. And yet, well, and until you've said these words, because I'm also a father, and just to put this into context, I spent my first 12 years in uniform as a soldier with the British Army. My son was diagnosed with ADHD when he was about 13, 14-ish. And during that evolution of boy to man through those teenage years to subsequently be given this badge, this label of ADHD, and to be in the household of a very, very strict military disciplined father.
Yeah.
And the challenge between the two of us. I
Yeah.
never had any appreciation as to exactly the thinking process of a 14-year-old son until you've just shared it with me today. And I'm sat there racking my brain thinking, and of all of those times where I just need you to, and do you not realize the consequences of your action? And the simple answer is no.
They don't care. No, it doesn't register the same way.
Wow. Thank you. If there is nothing that anybody else from this podcast gets, then it's for me to be able to phone up and say sorry to a now 28-year-old boy or man, to be able to say, you know, all those times where your dad got it wrong. Well, perhaps this is why. This is what's led me to understand more about why I got it wrong.
What's interesting about life, you know, I'm 44 now, and the thing you figure out in life is so much of what we do is understanding and managing other people's personalities, especially when you have employees, right? Like how you deal with your employees, and they're all different. Same thing with our kids. Like I have 5 kids. They're all very different. And just starting to recognize the patterns of people, right? Like what motivates people and their personality quirks. And we all have them. And I want to say we're all a little bit of a snowflake with our different personalities, right? But there are very clear patterns to people. And I think as we get older, we meet people, and like within the first like minute, you kind of realize, oh yeah, this person's probably kind of like this. We get really good at that.
I tell you, I never envisaged that we were going to go down this avenue, but I'm so excited by the fact that we have done, because it's bringing up so many other thoughts and considerations for me with regards to, you know, you've gone from humble beginnings to this huge, great business, and perhaps the superpower was partially down to that ability to be able to quickly map through and identify patterns in behaviors to understand how to get the best out of people.
Yeah, actually, I would say I was terrible at dealing with people.
Okay.
Especially in my 20s, my early 20s for sure. I would say even into my early 30s. Like, you know, as somebody who is like above average intelligence and a little more introverted, has ADHD, things come extremely naturally to me. Like, you know, when my wife is talking to me, she hasn't even explained the problem and I already know the solution. And that is the way I've always been my entire life when I deal with other people. And then other people just frustrate the heck out of me because they don't think the way that I do.
Sure.
You know, you hire somebody and you're like, hey, go do this thing. And then it takes them 10 times longer, or they can't figure out how to do it or whatever. And my immediate reaction, of course, when I was younger was like, why are you so stupid? Why can't you do this? And it took me a long time to figure out, it's like, Matt, these people just aren't like you. Like, they don't think the way that you think. Like, you have this ability that they don't have. I was not probably very nice to a lot of people in my 20s. And so it took me a long time to figure this out. And even to some degree today, I still struggle with this because I can figure out the solutions to most problems before most people can explain the problem.
Or even acknowledge that they've got it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, 100%. And so, you know, that can be frustrating.
Sure. Let's dive, if we may, into the business career that was rather than what is currently, and just understand that, you know, you took a relatively small business, certainly in conjunction or in comparative to some of the big competitors in the market that you were in, and yet you were very quickly able to find a niche, a problem that other people were having that says, I'm going to really, sorry, a niche. I must remember it's niche with the American audience, but you were able to quickly identify something out of everything that you inherited within the business, but this is the bit that other people are getting wrong, and then went deep on it to subsequently be able to scale the business. Is that a fair analysis?
Yeah, I would say early on, we were really good at, we were in a market that it was in its infancy, you know, CRM related software. I mean, we're talking almost 25 years ago now, right? Like something like HubSpot and like Go High Level and a lot of these products have like all these cool features and you can build websites with them and it integrates to CRM and marketing and automation. Like this stuff didn't really exist like 20, 25 years ago.
Sure.
We built that for car dealerships 20, 25 years ago. And it was super cutting edge then. For a car dealership to be able to send an email that had like a brochure of a car in it, it didn't exist. That like wasn't a thing. I know it's weird to think today, but like 20, 25 years, it wasn't a thing. Like we literally like were on the cusp of the invention of that. And it's weird to think of that as an invention, but like, it wasn't rocket science. But for somebody, like me and my team, we got, a couple bright people are like, hey, yeah, we could probably embed a picture of a car in an email. Like this doesn't seem that big of a deal, right? Like, but nobody had ever done it before. Like this wasn't a thing. So we were just very much problem solvers, product people, talking to car dealers. We spent a lot of time talking to car dealers, looking at competitive products, looking at other products on the market and figuring out, it's like, yeah, we should be able to figure out how to automate this, do this, email, all these things, like just building a great product. And we were at the right place at the right time. And then the great like recession happened in 2008 and 2009. And that's kind of a different story, but that we could get into if you want. But yeah, we just continue to innovate through all of it.
Now, you eventually sold for, a significant sum. If I'm right in thinking you sold to Auto Trader?
Yeah, which is part of the Cox Automotive Group now. They own like 15 different business units or whatever. It's a huge conglomerate now.
Sure. Well, certainly Auto Trader is probably the biggest brand over in the UK in that field, as it were. It's certainly the industry leader, and to be able to think that you've gone from humble beginnings in order to be able to sell into that.
Yeah.
At what point of the journey did you recognise the asset value, and how did you end up on Auto Trader's radar to be able to start those type of conversations?
Well, it was interesting. Is we bootstrapped this the whole way. We never raised any capital. And so around 2008, 2009, when the recession happened, I don't know what our revenue was then. It was probably 10 or $15 million a year, which sounds like a whole lot, but then didn't necessarily seem like it. But let's say it was 10 million. We wanted to raise capital at that time. Like we looked at getting some mezzanine financing or different financing. But it was during the recession. SaaS was not the thing it is today. Like the SaaS multiples you got, the all that, it was not the same. It just wasn't the same, especially here in Kansas City where we're trying to raise capital. We just didn't have a lot of luck raising capital. And then
Sure.
General Motors goes bankrupt, Chrysler goes bankrupt, Ford closes a lot of their car dealerships. So we were in that industry.
Sure.
And, a lot of negativity about all of it. So it just was impossible to raise capital. And so we never really had a valuation stamped on us. We never really knew what this thing was worth. SaaS multiples and all that. We weren't into the whole venture Silicon Valley thing. We were just good old boys from Kansas City trying to build something, out of dirt and make a business out of it. Right. And we had already been successful. We're already doing, 10 million a year in revenue probably at that point in time. We just kept going. But yeah, it got a lot more real in 2009, 2010, we're doing 20 and then 30 million a year revenue. And we got we again, go back to like, well, we still need to raise money, like, because we were bootstrapping this in such a way that we didn't have enough money to really buy the servers that we needed, hire people. We didn't have enough employees. Like we couldn't invest into the growth. Like we were just literally like, we were on a rocket ship and we were literally just holding on by our fingertips, trying to hold on to this thing. And people always say, like, I want a business that's growing faster than I know what to do with. Like, I want that problem. You don't want that problem.
No, once it was only 2 or 3 episodes ago that we were talking about the risks of growing broke.
Yeah.
And when you let go of the beast and it starts to ride on. I haven't got to those sort of revenue targets, but I certainly recognize that when we hit 7 figures for the first time, that there was such a propulsion of being multi-6 and then hitting the 7 and then subsequently going very quickly towards 8. We never got there before I sold, but
the The machine takes on a life of its own.
It takes on a life of its own.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you've been feeding the beast for long enough that all of a sudden the turbo's kicked in and you're shooting your way forward.
It's been running on blood, sweat, and tears for a long time.
Yeah, you're gripping onto the reins, holding on for dear life, thinking all of these things are now falling apart because it was built for a smaller business that isn't capable of supporting the business that it's becoming.
And we had all of those problems. And my story with that is like everybody wants more problems they know what to do with. But the issue we had is I had 50 salespeople, incredible sales team doing cold calling. They would just call car dealerships up, get them on the phone. It's easy to get them on the phone, set up appointments, do demos of our software, sell our product. And then if we couldn't install it fast enough. So it's like, hey, you were supposed to build a new website for us and get us set up on your new CRM and all this. It's been 90 days. What the hell? I want my money back, blah, blah, blah. So now I got 50 salespeople lined up out my office, mad that they're not going to get their commission. They can't sell anything new, and everybody wants to cancel. So instead of selling new stuff and hitting our numbers to sell new, we're just dealing with complaints and cancellations because I literally can't install
relationship management. Yeah. And sales people aren't necessarily particularly geared to be able to quickly switch shift and go into relationship management for failings to meet the requirements of that they've previously sold them in commission for.
And I understand that's a good problem to have. It is a good problem to have. I'm not complaining, but man, it's difficult to deal with. Like you don't want to be there. Like, and a lot of us, we didn't have the capital. We couldn't afford to hire all the people. We couldn't afford to have all the servers. We couldn't to do all the things. So eventually we did get to the point, back to your earlier question about like, well, we need to consider raising some more money. Maybe we sell 20, 30%. We bring in some private equity, venture capital, whatever you want to call it at the time, growth capital for us. And that's when things started to get real. Like, I think our first valuation was probably like 80 million, 85 million was like the first offer we got. And that was just the first offer. And there became this slogan between me and one of our other partners was every day. That was the joke. I'd call them up and it would just be like, every day. Because literally every day we were getting a better offer. It was 85 and it was 90 and it was 95 and it was 100 and it was 105 and whatever. And it just kept going. And it was like, it was the wildest thing you'd ever seen. Like we're flying around the country, meeting with these VC and private equity people, and it was wild, like every day. And then we got to a point where we had like we decided we were just going to sell the business because we had 3 offers, like over 100 million. And we were going to take one of those offers. And I literally hugged a billionaire on the deal. The guy came to our office, literally hugged him. He called his lawyer and was like, hey, get him over the LOI. Let's get this thing done, blah, blah, blah. We never got the LOI. We never signed it. And we called Auto Trader and we're like, hey, sorry, you missed out. We're going to sell to this other company. Sorry, you guys didn't have time to look at us and do a deal. And what was the response? Like, no, you're not going to take that deal. We're going to be there in 2 days. Well, let's talk then. And they literally came to our office 2 days later and made us a better offer. It's like every day. It was like the craziest ride in history, man. And I mean, it wasn't until then that you're like, the numbers are real. Like before we got that first offer, it never felt like it was really worth anything. We knew it was worth something. And the moment it's worth something is when you've got the management team and the shareholders and the employees are all of a sudden are fighting over the equity. Like everybody cares about their stock options and equity and everybody's like fighting to get more equity. That's when it's worth something. You don't know necessarily what it's worth, but it's worth something now. Everybody's fighting for the equity in this thing.
I had a conversation quite a while ago now with a former client who you've just sparked remembering what happened. I won't necessarily mention his name as such, but he was saying that he had in his plan that he was going to sell for 50 million to a US firm. It's a UK-based company, but he knew he was going to be able to build a SaaS product. It was going to be able to sell in the States. He was going to sell for 50 million. And the first time he got an offer that was close to it, he was ready to be able to cash out and say, best of luck to you. At the time that they received their first offer, and you said, about every day. At the time he got his first offer, although his 2 other directors were collectively still minority shareholders, he relied on them as a CFO and a CTO in a SaaS firm. he relied strongly on their input. And when they said, no, we should take the offer and sell, he knew, regardless of whether he said yes or no to the offer, he'd lost the confidence of his two other directors in the business. And that created such an angst for the next 14, 15 months until they received a better offer, that the relationship between the three of them was challenged because there was a lack of trust or belief in whether it was the right answer. And I know that you've been vocal in the past with regards to, you've had some fallouts and challenges with partnership issues. Maybe you
they're hard, man. Super hard.
Yeah.
Talk about fighting over equity. Oh yeah, been through it.
I often say that the best of friends at the start of a business can easily become the worst of enemies because money is the root of all evil, as they say, and there is nothing worse than my ideation of success might be one fraction of a degree difference to yours, but as those numbers start to stack up, and certainly when you get north of $100 million, they create chasms of difference.
Well, yeah, it's like one partner wants to sell, the other doesn't want to sell, or one is contributing a lot, and maybe you've outgrown the other one. They're like, hey, when we started this little thing, we were just like two nobodies sitting in a restaurant, decided to start a business. But as the thing has scaled, like I scaled with it, but you haven't. And like you're basically, the guy who does accounts receivable and payables and does a couple things, and like I'm running this business, right? And like, why do I own this and you own that? And like, all the problems, all the things, right? All the personalities. And a lot of businesses struggle and fail for all those. And I think a lot of businesses sell because of partner problems. Actually, a business I'm very close to that I own some equity in has went through this. Like the CEO was really tired of one of the partners, wanted to get them out of the business, tired of dealing with them. But even then themselves, like I think the business has outgrown them.
Sure.
They a lot of people, a business gets to a certain stage, and I'm probably no different in this. We all get to a certain stage where you're like, I don't want to give up this delegate. I don't want to, they struggle to turn over control to different people. They want to micromanage things or whatever it is. Like based on our personality, can we take the leap to that next level, right? Like we sort of plateau somewhere. Yeah. Everybody goes through it. Everybody hits that limit somewhere.
The business has the capacity to do more, but we don't have the confidence or the skill or the experience or the energy left within us to be able to take what's needed when it's needed.
And you said the right word. Sometimes it's energy.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's energy. Like I had another business. We grew to about 5 million a year in revenue, fairly successful. We were on the Inc. 500. We did all the stuff, whatever. I was tired of it. I was frustrated with that business. It wasn't growing as fast as I wanted to grow. The sales and marketing was really difficult. I love the product, but the business was hard. It was just hard. I didn't have the energy or the passion for it anymore. I was ready to sell it, hand it off to somebody else, and sometimes that's the reality of it, right? We just want to do something different. We're tired of doing this.
Ironically, my first business, I bought as a small business, as a going concern. We grew it aggressively. It grew by one new member of staff every 14 weeks for 5.5 years, but all revenue generators. So I took it from $500,000 to about 3.7 very, very quickly. But during that growth phase, that aggressive growth phase where you're all in and you're all committed and you're all in an office saying, right, more, throw coal on the fire. We became key suppliers to a national infrastructure that 5 months into a 2-year contract, they went bust. I ended up having to lay off a few staff because we'd no longer got sufficient work to be able to warrant keeping the team. And we ended up doing such a big turnaround to be able to put the brakes on and go back a step to be able to move forward, that although we'd done the change management necessary, it took us about 18 months to be able to get some traction again. But by the end of the 18 months, when the turbo was ready to kick in, I was just knackered. I was absolutely shattered by what the washing machine that we'd been through.
Yeah.
That I never stayed to be able to realize the sunshine at the end of the rain. I just turned around and said, you know what, I'm done. I'm not the right persons to be able to now try and put the foot on the accelerator and push the gas pedal again. I need to hand this over and walk away, knowing that I've turned it round, but somebody else has got the enthusiasm, the capacity to be able to put the effort in that I've just not got any longer.
Yeah, I think my key suggestions there for a lot of it is, first of all, being self-aware, right? It's like, what are we good at? What are we not good at? What do we like doing? Where do we provide the most value to the company? Where are we holding the company back? Like, that's the real key thing, is being self-aware, to at least understand that and reason with yourself about recognizing it, right? Because a lot of people just don't recognize it, and it doesn't matter how many times you tell them, they still don't recognize it. And that's the hard part, is just first being self-aware of it, and hiring people to do the things you don't want to do, and focusing on where do you provide the most value, what do you enjoy doing more of that thing, right? And hiring other people to do the things that just drain you. I don't like doing those things. And a good example of this is when I was earlier in my career, I was the CTO, I was the product guy, I was the engineer and the product guy. I could build anything, literally I could build anything, but I hated managing people. I hated process. I hate the detail work. And I felt like a failure because I didn't like doing those things, right? I felt like I'm failing as a manager and a leader if I'm also not good at these things. And eventually realizing, like, no, I need to lean into my superpower and hire somebody else to do those things. And that's the unlock, right? Is realizing, like, we all have our sort of personality and superpower. And I'll never forget when this happened. Like, I don't read books. As I mentioned before, I have ADHD. I don't read books. I can't read books. I don't have the attention span to do it. But my chief operating officer brought me a book called Rocket Fuel. And he's like, Matt.
Okay. Yeah.
He's like, Matt, I know you don't read books, but you need to read this book. And I'm like, oh crap, what did I do? Is he quitting? Like, what is this, like my divorce help manual book, like, or something, right? Like, what is going on? So anyways, read the book, and the book is about this exact problem, the difference of, like, the visionary and the operator. I'm very much the visionary, not the operator. But guess what? Craig was the operator. And reading that book, and I was probably 33 years old or something when I first read this book, 35, something like that. Was eye-opening. I'm like, I never really thought about this. Like, so many things. Like, I became way more self-aware in that moment just from reading that book, of what I was good at, what I wasn't good at, and how to work with somebody like Craig. And yeah, I highly recommend that book to other entrepreneurs out there.
I'll make sure I put a link of it in the show notes so people have got access to it straight away. Some of our audience are very much at the very beginning of their journey and still bootstrapping and solopreneur and testing the market, a hustle culture, as it were. It would be wrong of me, certainly as the host of having done 1,200 plus episodes of your own podcast, not to be able to dive in and say, of all of the experience that you now have, both within your own businesses and empire that you've built several times over now, but also having interviewed and spoken with so many other people through the podcast series, what is it that people miss before the money, before the fame, before the accelerator comes in? What is it that the simple thing that people miss getting right first in that enthusiasm to try and get to the next level, that in retrospect we should slow down and put in place in order to be able to make the journey just a little bit easier?
I think there's a couple things there. I got 2 or 3 things I'd love to talk through. I think the first is, you got to have, if you're the founder of this thing, it's got to be something you're passionate about, right? You got to get up every day and be like, I love what we're doing. I love the problem. I love the market. Like, you got to be excited about it, because
regardless of what you do for the day, it's got to be within here.
You've got to be excited about this business, because it's sort of like adopting a puppy. Like, if you're going to start this business, you got to be ready to do this for the next 5 or 10 years. And you're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. There's going to be days where this puppy craps all over the place and chews through all the wires and destroys your house. And that is the nature of being an entrepreneur. And so I think that's the first thing. It's just got to be something you're really passionate about. And I mean, like, really passionate about it. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't be blind to it. And if it's a stupid idea and you don't listen to anybody and, like, you have, like, this crazy blind faith. The next thing I would tell you, as a founder, you have to embrace that your job is not really to develop the product. It's not to do sales. It's to identify and find leads. The thing that drives every business is leads. You can hire all the salespeople in the world. If they don't have leads to work, it doesn't matter. Leads is the thing. And it doesn't matter how good or how bad your product is. If you don't have leads for people that care about that product, it doesn't matter. And so that is really important. And as a founder myself, I'm more of a product guy. I'm naturally the product guy. But I have to always be reminding myself, it's like, I got to spend a certain amount of time a day on like sales and marketing stuff. How do I help bring in new business? So I do a lot of stuff on social media. I do a podcast. I wrote a book. I'm on LinkedIn. I do all this stuff, and it's all marketing related. It's the reason I'm on here. It's marketing related, right? So the last piece of advice I would give you, and I'll just ask you, Jay, who is the best plumber where you live? The best plumber. Who's the best plumber?
Well, he's a guy that lives 3 streets away with a father and son couple. And he's been running it for the last 35 years, and he's now training his son to do so.
He's not the best plumber.
Okay.
You don't know who the best plumber is. You know the best known plumber. And he might be your best known plumber. He's the guy that you see his truck drive down the street. You see his ads on TV. You see his ads on radio. Probably not actually the best plumber. There's probably a plumber that is a better plumber. So in business, that's my feedback for you. You don't want to be the best at what you do. You want to be the best known for what you do, because you will never be the best. Like, best is not the goal. Best known is the goal. McDonald's does not sell the best hamburgers.
Hell no.
They don't. But they are best known for selling hamburgers.
Amen.
And that's the point. Same thing with owning a plumber. Like, if you're a plumber, you want everybody to see your truck driving up and down the street, your ads, or you want to be best known. Somebody thinks like, I need a plumber. They just think of you.
Sure.
They're like, why would I think of anybody else? This is the guy I always see. If I need a plumber, of course you call that guy. That's what you want. Best known.
Feed a starving crowd is understanding where your market is and how to be able to communicate effectively with them, as opposed to professing to be the best, like so many people now do on socials. Is actually being out there and being seen, and not being the best kept secret.
Yeah, if you're so focused on building the best product and you're like Wizard of Oz behind the curtain, it's sort of more like you're an inventor and it's a hobby to you. Like, sure. You've got to get out there and everybody's got to know what it is you're building. And I know some people don't like social media. I do a lot on social media. I post on LinkedIn every day. I just tell people, like, just be excited about what you're building. Just go on social media and just be excited about it. Just tell everybody about the cool thing that you made. Other people will also be excited about it, or they'll just be excited for you. They'll be excited for your journey. That in itself is marketing. So
I'm going off on a slight tangent again, but you're firing off all the synapses. Is it fair to compare the example that you've just given about being the best known plumber as opposed to the best plumber to the story of Jesus?
Okay.
On the premise that this guy popped up and he goes around and tells the most incredible, phenomenal, exciting and engaging story again and again and again and again and again. So much so that 12 guys who'd got relatively good jobs and a business, fishing and carpentering and this and the other, said, do you know what? That sounds so much more exciting than the Groundhog Day that we're in. We're in. And before you know it, 2,500 years after he died, we're still telling the story, because there's nothing else that reflects better than a great story well told.
I mean, it's not the best religion, but it's the best known religion.
Touche.
Right?
Touche.
Yeah. He's the best known storyteller, right? Like, yeah, you're right.
Amen. Amen. Matt, I could chat to you all day, but I've got to appreciate the time that you've given us. Before we wrap up, I'd be keen to understand if all of that's now behind you and you've done some rearranging in your current furniture and real estate, as it were. What's next? What are you working on right now? Where do we see 2026, 2027? What's Matt Watson 2.0 working on?
Well, so full scale is my biggest focus. We started it in 2018. It was actually like an accidental business. I needed to hire software engineers affordably, and me and another guy started a business in the Philippines, doing just that. It's like I thought it would just be like a little co-working space. We'd have like 20 employees working on my stuff and his stuff, or whatever. And we ended up hiring 100 people in the first year. It just like took off like crazy, and so that turned into an accidental business. And so today we have over 340 employees in the Philippines, working for over 80 different clients doing software engineering. So from publicly traded companies to smaller startups that are kind of in growth phase that need help, building software. So that's what I spend most of my time on. But we also started a venture studio. So we're trying to build a couple of our own SaaS products, and you know how that goes. It's a struggle, but we're working through it ourselves these days, building a couple of our own products. So that's kind of fun. Yeah, all that is fun and exciting for me. I love what we do. What's great about Full Scale is we're creating amazing jobs and opportunity for our team, but we're also helping our clients. So it's a win-win, and so it just feels good. It feels good to put people to work, right? I love hiring people and giving people a great career and opportunity. So that part of it always feels really good.
Our entire mission is to be able to eradicate unemployment.
Yeah.
By supporting business owners to be able to grow sustainably, that they continue to create new jobs.
Yeah, and that part feels great. I love taking care of our employees.
Amen. I've got one last sneaky question, if I may.
Okay.
There's been such a huge rush towards the evolution of ChatGPT and subsequently other AI agents. Where do you see all of this go? I know it's not a fad and it's here to stay, as it were, but I genuinely feel that people are jumping on the bandwagon without actually understanding where it's heading. What's your suggestions and predictions with regards to AI in 26, 27?
AI is a wonderful tool. I mean, we use it in our venture studio to prototype things, like using something like Lovable, and there's a lot of options to rapidly prototype something where maybe before you could spend months trying to prototype something. Now, like a non-technical person can just go into Lovable, build a simple user interface and build something. And largely what you get, I would probably call, is mostly a prototype.
Sure, you can get to MVP very quickly.
Yeah, and depending on your use case, maybe that's good enough and you don't need to do a lot more than that. But usually at some point in time, you're like, I need engineers to help me like really take this thing to the next level. And then the engineers are using all these tools. I mentioned we have over 300 software engineers at my company, and they use all these tools, Claude Code and Cursor and all these different things. And they're amazing at helping with productivity and getting things done. I've used them myself to do various different projects, and it's absolutely amazing what you can get done in a short amount of time. The key there is there's two camps. It is helping. It's what I say is it's two camps, because the engineers have to learn how to use these tools. And the problem is, for a long time, software engineers were really treated more like order takers. They're like, here's the requirements, go build this thing, do exactly what I told you to do, and almost don't ask any questions, just go build it, right?
Lock them in a dark room and wait for them to produce something at the end of it.
Yeah, and that is dead. That is over, because if I have to write that detailed of requirements and give it to an engineer, I basically could almost just give that to AI, and AI will build it, right? So this is the thing we keep preaching to our team and training on them. It's like everybody has to move up a level. Like you are now have to have more product thinking, understanding why are we building this, having empathy for the user, understanding the business outcomes that are attached to it. All this kind of stuff at a higher level is way, way more important than it ever was before, because AI is going to write 80% of the code. And so product thinking is the key. And so when I say there's two camps, you're going to have those that kind of evolve, that understand this product thinking and make this evolution. And then the developers, the software engineers that really weren't that great are the ones that are going to get left behind because they can't make that leap.
Sure.
Is what we're going to see. I actually wrote a book kind of about all this called Product Driven, about how to lead engineering teams and stuff that kind of goes into some of this.
Brilliant. And so I've certainly seen the same evolution from my military career, where when I joined in the late 80s, it was very much a case of a very hierarchical, do as I say, not do as I do. You wouldn't dare answer back or question anything. And yet these days you see so much more responsibility passed to the front line,
Yeah.
and asking for the private soldiers to be able to make some really quite stark decisions,
Yeah.
because they're the eyes on the ground and can see what's happening, and feed the intelligence back to the people that are subsequently building all the overall mission behind it.
Yep. 100%.
So, Matt, it's been an absolute pleasure to speak to you. Thank you so much for being able to give your time today and to share some insights from not only a professional perspective on how to be able to grow without the need for selling your souls to the venture capitalists along the way, but also a very much unexpected personal directive, and look at the person behind that, and some of the things that you've shared that have helped me as a father, as a human beings, to understand about characteristics and how not to just associate a label perhaps with the superpower and the behaviors and the capabilities of the person associated with it. It's been a real pleasure to take some time out of the day to speak to you today. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me today. I really appreciate it.
My sincerest regards. So, as we wrap up today, I'm sure that you've got lots of questions or thoughts or suggestions, or it's provoked some ideas like I've suggested it has for me. I'll make sure that there are connection details for Matt on LinkedIn that go into the show notes if he wants to be able to connect with him and to be able to share that conversation or what it sparked for you in this episode. And again, don't forget that this is brought to you by My True North on the premise that we are working with accidental business owners to be able to help support with their marketing, sales, operation, finance team, and the thinking that goes to being able to change from working in it to working on it. God bless, take care, and I look forward to being able to see you again next week. Matt, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to the Accidental Business Owner podcast with me, Jay Allen. If today's episode sparked a thought, challenged your thinking, or gave you a new tool to grow smarter, share it, rate it, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a moment of transformation. God bless, take care, and I'll see you again next week.